Coming up on Cronkite News, efforts are underway to build a unique medical database. We'll let you know what they hope to accomplish.
Plus, the 9th annual Tuskegee Airmen commemoration kicked off at the Luke Air Force Base in Glendale. How the state is honoring the courageous Black military airmen who fought in World War II.
And later on Break It Down, we take a look at what needs to be done to solve the cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Atria Mineshny.
And I'm Kelly Donahue. Thank you for joining us. Now that COVID infections are on the decline, the Biden administration is now left to make a decision about asylum, with potential impacts right here in Arizona. Restrictions on asylum have been in place to reduce the spread of COVID. But now that cases among migrants at the border are on the decline, the Biden administration is left with the decision to either extend the restrictions or end them. Those restrictions on asylum led to the U.S. expelling migrants near 1.7 million times since the start of the pandemic. More than 50,000 people in Arizona are part of a national effort to build a new kind of medical database. To recognize that achievement, Governor Doug Ducey proclaimed March Arizonans in Health Research Month. Cronkite News reporter Anna Stansfield tells us why this program is so different and how it could help experts study any number of health conditions.
The All of Us research program is an initiative of the National Institutes of Health, and its goal is ambitious: to build the largest and most diverse database of its kind. The idea is to include people too often overlooked in medical research, those with different ages, races, backgrounds, living in all parts of the country. Here in Arizona, the University of Arizona and Banner Health are heading up the effort. Victor Avila is Latino, gay, and HIV positive. After learning about the All of Us program, he wanted to enroll because of the diversity he brings to the table.
I just felt an obligation personally to be part of this study so that I can help make some kind of a difference. And maybe when I get to that aging part, there's going to be better medicine, more advanced healthcare, and just an opportunity for me to lead a better overall healthy life.
Nationally, All of Us aims to enroll at least 1 million participants who agree to share their health data. Approved researchers can then access that data to study a host of different health conditions. For example, Arizona researchers are using the information to re-examine the link between cholesterol and heart disease.
We're excited to provide a shared resource of electronic health record data, other health information, detailed genetic data, and biological samples for the field, for researchers throughout the country.
Too often, health research fails to reflect the nation's diversity. People of color, those with disabilities, and others can get left out, and that can affect how treatments are developed and distributed.
Most of the genetic information we have is on individuals of European ancestry, and so primarily white populations of individuals. And by including more diverse populations, we increase the amount of genetic diversity that's within the data set, and that enables additional discoveries.
For now, anyone 18 and older and living in the U.S. may enroll. Participants simply share basic information like their name and address and any electronic health records they may have. Then they can schedule an enrollment appointment to provide vitals and potentially a blood or urine test. To date, Arizona leads the nation in program enrollment. Avila was the 50,000th participant.
My winning prize for that is learning more about what my health is and how I can improve it, and just learning more about, things that I would otherwise not know about.
All of Us is committed to making sure health information remains private. Personal information that could identify someone is removed before the data is shared with researchers. In the newsroom, Anna Stansfield, Cronkite News.
Arizonans are feeling the crunch of increasing rent prices. As talks of rent control continue, a new measure from the state legislature is being considered that would bar cities and towns from taxing home and apartment rentals. If approved, tax collections would stop next year. The bill was proposed by Republican Representative Shauna Bullock and is meant to provide relief to Phoenix renters. Yet, some are arguing that cutting $152 million in city tax revenue would do little to help people afford leases in the area. The tax elimination could lead to other tax raises or cuts in local services. Valley rent prices are expected to soar an additional 20% this year. A new report found that the voting machines used in the 2020 presidential elections were not connected to public internet. The report released yesterday by the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors delivered another blow to the state's Senate election audit. The Senate was looking for evidence that votes were injected into voting machines through public internet. In Maricopa County, 2 separate systems are used to run elections. One keeps track of voter registration records and is not part of the ballot counting process. The other system counts ballots, and neither system is connected to each other in any way. The report found that neither system was ever connected to public internet.
A recent White House report calls for stronger Native American voting protections after it was revealed that Native Americans faced unequal barriers at the polls. The report found that Native Americans face threats, mockery, and language barriers when heading to the polls. In southern Arizona, Pasco Yaqui tribes were told to, quote, take an Uber to vote when no early voting polling locations were put on tribal land at the beginning of the pandemic. The White House report calls on Congress to pass the Native American Voting Rights Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. But those have had challenges passing the Senate. 9 years ago, Governor Jan Brewer signed Senate Bill 1128, making the 4th Thursday of every March Tuskegee Airmen Commemoration Day in Arizona. Cronkite News reporter Nick Shesky was at the Luke Air Force Base to speak with some honorary Tuskegee Airmen.
The Tuskegee Airmen were the first United States African-American flying unit that fought during World War II.
They persevered when they said it couldn't be done, and I don't know what we'd be doing today if they hadn't succeeded, but they did.
According to the U.S. Census, there were only 124 African-American pilots in the nation in 1940. Because of racial segregation, the first all-black flying group took to the skies in Tuskegee, Alabama. 2 years later, the 99th Pursuit Squadron was combat-ready and deployed overseas for their first mission in North Africa.
They had a tremendous combat record, and they were the ones who broke the barrier and showed that there was no reason why anybody should be denied the opportunity to serve their country just because of the color of their skin.
By the end of the war, because of the success of the Tuskegee Airmen, those 124 African-American pilots had grown to over 1,000 black aviators. Ronald McGee's father, Charles, was one of those airmen. He says that passing his father and all of the airmen's stories down to the next generation is what Tuskegee Airmen Commemoration Day is all about.
They did what they thought they had to do as an American. It was victory against Hitler, and Nazism, but also against racism in the United States.
The story of the Tuskegee Airmen is an enduring one, and a story that will continue to be told on the 4th Thursday of every March. In Glendale, Nick Shesky, Cronkite News.
Coming up after the break, an iconic natural occurrence is back. We'll take you to Washington, D.C., where their cherry trees are in full bloom.
What you get from Washington Week that you will not get anywhere else are the best and the brightest reporters from different media companies, and they're able to have a real conversation about things that are happening in Washington and around the country. But it's also a show about issues that are relevant to different communities. How do you think that, as the moderator, I feel this deep responsibility to bring in those other perspectives so that people understand how power and politics impact their daily lives?
Friday nights at 7 on Arizona PBS.
The cherry trees in Washington, D.C. are reaching their peak bloom. Cronkite News reporter Alexia Stanbridge takes us to the Tidal Basin to show us this much-anticipated annual event.
Like everything else, the annual tradition of strolling the Tidal Basin when Washington's famous cherry trees are in full bloom has been put on hold in recent years. Now visitors are back this week, making up for lost time.
We weren't able to go the last couple of years because of COVID, but we're happy to be back here. It's a beautiful day.
For years before the pandemic, Sarah Stein and her daughter Leah visited the cherry blossoms annually, and they were eager to get out and see them again this year before they moved to Arizona this summer.
I haven't come here in so long that I forgot what color they were.
In a typical year, the National Cherry Blossom Festival brings in over 1.5 million people to the tidal basin. People like Keisha Comschles, an Arizona native whose annual trip to see the blossoms was halted by the pandemic of the last 2 years.
But it's nice to be out with people and doing things out in the world again.
Guessing when the trees hit what the National Park Service calls peak bloom is as much a tradition as visiting the trees themselves. Peak bloom hit this week about a week earlier than expected, to the delight of visitors.
A lot of people try to time all their life, time that opportunity for that to visit the cherry blossoms, and they get here a little too early, too late, because they last a few days.
Jeffrey Post, an Arizona State University graduate, says the scene is like nowhere else in the world. The flowering trees were gifts from Japan to the people of the United States as a symbol of friendship in 1912. Now, 110 years later, visitors are still enjoying their beauty.
The place and the trees together is what does it. Again, you got the tidal basin, you got the memorials, you're here in Washington, D.C.
I talked with visitors from all around the country who turned out for this brief show. Peak bloom is this week, and petals are expected to start dropping soon. In Washington, Alexia Stambridge, Cronkite News.
You've probably noticed the warmer temperatures lately, and while we're expecting a warm weekend, we will still see a cool down next week. Peyton Major joins us from the Cronkite News Weather Center with our forecast.
Happy Friday. We're heating up here in the valley. You probably already noticed those record high temperatures outside today. And tonight we're at 92 right now, 23-degree dew point, 10% humidity, and a wind just slightly at 6 miles an hour. For the rest of this evening, we will cool down just slightly into the 80s by 8 p.m. and barely in those 70s by 10 p.m. Overnight tonight, we'll be in the 60s, so staying pretty warm for this time of year, especially for March. We expect that first 90-degree day by about March 30th every year, so about right on time. 63 in Phoenix overnight, 37 in Flagstaff, and then tomorrow will be way warmer than today, actually. 95, maybe hitting 96 in some parts of the valley, 68 there in Flagstaff, and 95 is really all around for now. Starting tomorrow, though, we will heat up quite rapidly, actually. At 8 a.m., we'll be in the 60s, but not for long. We'll hit those 90s by 2 p.m., hitting 95 or 96 by 4 p.m. And then for the rest of this weekend, we can also still expect those 90s, 94 on Sunday, 80s on Monday. And then Monday night is when that pattern change starts to trickle in. A low pressure system enters the valley, bringing those rain chances up, bringing us also into the 60s. And then the rest of next week, we're right around average, 81 degrees this time of year, so right on track. Make sure to get out those flip-flops, pack the sunscreen, find a pool nearby for this weekend, and enjoy the rest of the week. In the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Peyton Major.
I'm Hayden Weber. Coming up after the break, I'll have your Cronkite Sports Report. Arizona men's basketball had a postseason battle that proved to be a little too wild for the Cats. Next.
Cronkite News provides students at ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism with the opportunity to gain real-world experience in the newsroom. At Cronkite News, our students produce professional content for audiences by taking on all roles, whether they be reporting, anchoring, producing, or studio production. Each department gives students first-hand professional newsroom experience. For more information, visit cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
I was so excited when I learned that I was going to be the next moderator of Washington Week. I was incredibly lucky to be mentored by Gwen Eiffel, and what that gave to me was this confidence that I could be my full self and that I was deserving in whatever spaces I was in.
Welcome to Washington Week.
I also feel this great joy in taking the helm of Washington Week, knowing that I can mold it and make it my own, but also make sure that it is still within the legacy and the tradition that made it so great for all of these years.
Welcome back to Cronkite News. I'm Hayden Weber with your Friday Sports Report. The Arizona Wildcats men's basketball team's incredible season came to an end last night in San Antonio. Cronkite News reporter Colt Almadova was at the game to see the Wildcats take the court one final time.
The Sweet 16 was not so sweet for Arizona as the top-seeded Wildcats fell to 5th-seeded Houston 72-60 on Thursday night. The Cougars' defense was as good as advertised as they held the Wildcats to 34% shooting from the field, stifling any chance of a second-half comeback from the Cats.
We came out the second half, we stopped playing our game, and then we fed back to what we were doing first half. So you just got to give credit to them. They played really good, and yeah, they deserve the win.
The Houston fans came out in full force, and the Sea of Red made their presence felt as they watched their Cougars hold the lead throughout the entire game. Despite the loss for Arizona, this team will be remembered for its remarkable journey that brought the Cats back to the big dance for the first time since 2018. A solid first step in Tommy Lloyd's opening chapter.
They're an amazing group of guys. I'll always be thankful for them. I think they really helped, me get Arizona basketball, off to a good start in my tenure, and I'll always be thankful for them. And I think we really built some foundational pieces this year that are going to really serve us well moving forward.
The last obstacle in Houston's road to the Final Four is another pack of Wildcats when the team has to take on Villanova on Saturday in the Elite Eight. As for Arizona, their championship aspirations and their season has come to a close. But when you look back at Tommy Lloyd's first year at the helm, going from start to finish, unranked in November and a Sweet 16 appearance in March, this program is definitely building something special down there in Tucson. In San Antonio, Colt Almadova, Cronkite News.
Arizona guard Benedict Matherin's stock rose dramatically over the course of the season and in the tournament. Will he return to Tucson or jump into the NBA draft? The sophomore said after the game he'll weigh his options. The NCAA Swim and Dive Championships are taking place all weekend. After yesterday's action, the Arizona State men's team is in 5th place, led by freshman Leon Marchand, who's putting on a historic performance. Marchand was the national champion in the 200-yard individual medley event yesterday. Now, greatest in the nation has a nice sound to it, but what about the greatest of all time? Well, Marchand broke the NCAA record for the 200-yard IM with his time of 1 minute and 37.69 seconds. That is 0.44 seconds faster than the previous record held by 7-time Olympic gold medalist Caleb Dressel. Marchand will compete in the 400-yard IM championship tonight to try to win his second national title in just 2 days. The Phoenix Suns won their 60th game last night, a mark that the Suns haven't reached since 2007. Here's what Devin Booker had to say about reaching the milestone.
We always talk about celebrating everything, and 60 wins is something I never even thought of, to be completely honest.
That's all for today's Cronkite Sports Report. Back to you, Autria.
The newest member of the Phoenix Zoo family now has a name. Luna is the newest member of the Maasai giraffe herd born just last month on February 7th. Luna, which means moon in Spanish, was named by the zoo's Hoofstock team because she was born during the night. She has been getting used to her space in the savanna habitat, staying close to her mom, who is fittingly named Sunshine. Luna is Sunshine's 3rd calf and number 4 for her dad, Migu.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.